With international pressure mounting for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas militants in Gaza, some signs of hope emerged today. There were reports suggesting Hamas might be prepared in broad terms to accept an Egyptian-inspired peace plan. At the same time, there has also been renewed heavy fighting in Gaza City. After almost 20 days of bombardment, the death toll in Gaza is now more than 1,000 people, hundreds of them civilians. Israel has banned foreign journalists from entering Gaza to provide independent reports. But now the ABC has gained access to Gaza's main hospital, where doctors are struggling to cope with the continuing carnage. This report from the ABC's Middle East correspondent Matt Brown, and we should warn that it contains some disturbing images.
It's been a stunning display of raw power. The Israeli military machine, amongst the most powerful in the world, has gone to war against Hamas, the Islamist militants who rule the Gaza Strip. It's determined to stop Hamas launching rockets into Israel. At times, the bombing seems so overwhelming, there's no way to comprehend what the people of Gaza are going through. However, if the suffering has a ground zero, it's Shifa Hospital in Gaza City. For nearly 3 weeks, Shifa has been overwhelmed. While Dr. Mohammed Elron looks calm amidst the chaos, he's barely slept or seen his family since the crisis began.
We are far from family, and seeing these poor people who are massacred, who are without hands, So as a Palestinian and as a doctor, we are very sad till now.
One of the extraordinary things about these attacks is the toll they've taken on children. It was predictable, given that more than half the population's under 18. Even Dr. Elron's own 12-year-old son was hit in the face by shrapnel 2 weeks ago. The Palestinian Ministry of Health now says more than 300 children have been killed.
They are part from rockets, from the rockets, cylinder of it. It was in the skull and extracted.
Dr. Elron isn't a member of Hamas. He's not even a supporter. He just wants an end to the violence.
Finally, in the finish, some political resolution must be. But when? When it will be? Next 2 days, next 2 months, next 2 weeks? It is the main problem.
Medical supplies were running short before this crisis began because Israel imposed a blockade when Hamas won democratic elections in 2006. Then Gaza was all but sealed off when Hamas seized total control in mid-2007. While Israel's allowed some medical aid in during the fighting, the doctors just can't cope.
We have a big number of injured people, so we need more and more with equipment and facilities. Sometimes we cannot do something. We are still crossed hand, and we couldn't manage this big number of injured people. But we are doing our best. Everything we are in need now.
The scale of the attacks is unprecedented, and so are some of the injuries. Israel's been firing white phosphorus to light up the sky and hide its troops on the front line. But human rights workers say it's illegal to fire this weapon into a built-up area like Gaza City. Israel maintains it's broken no international law. What's beyond doubt is that militants and civilians alike are now turning up at Shifa with terrible burns.
Maybe from the phosphorus, white phosphorus.
This patient's been shot several times, but the burn he suffered has made matters much worse.
I think here we have a burning element, maybe from the white phosphorus, poisoning or burning elements. So we have a burned area.
Despite the invasion, Hamas has kept launching rockets into Israel. The town of Sderot, just a few kilometres from Gaza, has borne the brunt of the fire. The roads bear the scars of many a near miss, and the bus stop comes equipped with a bomb shelter. Local medics, like Gila Siskowitz, have families in the firing line. He once had to rush to his own daughter's school to treat the wounded.
I see you've had a bit of use out of this ambulance. How many times have you gone out to a rocket strike?
I can't count it, but I can say to the most of the Qassam phones, and we are talking about thousands during the 8 years.
Do you think you'll ever get a chance to live here and not have to worry about the rockets?
I hope so. I hope so.
However, in the Middle East, hope doesn't usually last long.
Go inside, inside. It's now directed to Sderot. You are going to the safety room.
The medics must take shelter until the rocket falls, but then they'll rush straight to the scene. Despite the drama, the mission is kept as low-key as possible.
All the cases when the ambulance is going, we don't operate sirens because this is a stress indicator for the population here. We're just going with the red lights, no sirens.
The only casualty in the strike was a woman who suffered an anxiety attack, but her symptoms get worse each time a rocket falls.
The stress syndromes are in wide range. You can't even, they are trembling, they are not cooperating, they got chest pains, their hypertension rises up to 200 and more.
Since 2001, 19 civilians have been killed by rockets and mortars fired into Israel.
The government says it's not just the number of people who've been killed that matters. It's the fact that more than 1 million are now within range of the rockets, and they shouldn't have to live their lives in constant fear that at any minute they'll need to take shelter.
Many homes don't have a shelter, and while most rockets cause only minor damage, they also stir up powerful emotions.
It feels scary, frightening. We don't sleep at night. We don't have a shelter here.
The government has tried to mollify the population, and councillors are quick to arrive. Assessors offering compensation are also on hand. While the damage is repaired as quickly as possible, the residents want a permanent fix.
The military operation is good, and I hope it continues and destroys them and leaves them only dust in Gaza.
In some of Gaza's neighbourhoods, dust is almost all that's left. Israel wants the people of Gaza to blame Hamas for their suffering and rise up against the Islamist regime. But that's unlikely.
Every family will face her real problems with lost sons, lost part of family, and handicapped people who lost their house and their homes, their farmers, and everything which he had before. Some people now have nothing.
Rebellion is the last thing on Abu Muhammad Hamouda's mind. His wife barely survived an attack, and their 2 boys have been killed.
We have a lot of handicapped people, and every house in Gaza is suffering because they lost their children or their relatives. This is our destiny as Palestinians. We have to tolerate it and endure.
While there's been plenty of talk about a ceasefire, it can't come soon enough.
They cannot eradicate us, and we cannot eradicate them. So political solution is the only solution. But when they decided to do a political solution,
it's unbelievable. It's like a marathon running, and we have to keep running and running, hoping someday it will change.
Despite all their hopes, few on either side of the line believe peace will be lasting.